Hey everyone, I am literally at a loss for words because I just came home and my most recent eBay purchase just came in. So I was able to actually score a copy of what is considered to be my white whale of a deck, my unicorn deck, the deck that I have had on my wish list since I first came to tarot, and I want to share with you that I actually now have a copy of Delta Enduring. So this is super exciting for me because I am from Louisiana, so I really am very innately drawn to this deck, and I really feel like it is such a special treat to own something that is going to help me connect to my home place and the state that I'm choosing to live in such at a deeper level. So I am absolutely thrilled that I received this, and I thought kind of while I was feeling up to it, while I'm still like super excited and kind of in this giddy space, that I would go through the deck with you and I would kind of give you a little bit of a walkthrough. So I did find this on eBay, and I think part of another reason I'm really excited about it too is because I never thought that it would be within my budget, but I was able to get it because essentially like it can't come with a box, which would normally be like a pretty big trigger for me, but it did come with and was listed to have the original altar cloth from the Kickstarter, which actually has like a variety of things, like it says all kinds of stuff, and I was able to verify that this was like the cloth that came with the Kickstarter. So box be damned, like I don't need it. I have my unicorn deck and I'm just really fucking excited to show y'all. So with that being said, I am going to flip the camera over, and I thought I would just kind of do like a little impromptu walkthrough. I do have the guidebook here. As you can tell, it's been like a little bit lightly used, but that's okay. That's what the listing said. And so if I need to dip into the guidebook, I will show you a couple like sample entries, because I know when I was looking for Delta Enduring, I wasn't really able to find like many videos on it because it is a hard to find deck. And so I'll show you a couple sample entries, but for the most part, I'm just gonna kind of riff off of what I see in the imagery, what I know about tarot, and kind of my experience of growing up here in Louisiana. So I'm super excited to share this with y'all. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Alrighty guys, so I have flipped the camera around and I am gonna go ahead and get started. So here are the backs. You can tell mine that has a little bit of like love on it, but that's totally fine with me. This was a one-time only printing, so it just means that the deck was loved a little bit. Alrighty, here we go. We're going with the Fool. So I am such a huge fan of this Fool because I have grown up with water looking like this my entire life. It is very normal for rivers to look muddy like this, for lakes to look muddy like this, and so this is just a perfect depiction of like, son, like why are you getting in that water? Like you don't know what's down there. You don't know if there's an alligator down there or a snake down there. That water is muddy, don't get in there. So I feel like this is very quintessential. We have the Magician, and clearly this woman is making a gumbo. So I personally really love this because gumbo was one of the last like Cajun Creole foods that I learned to make. It's very difficult. It's not an easy thing to cook because you do have to start off with a roux, which can be more difficult for people who are just learning how to cook. And so I love that there's a level of mastery to this. This woman is very confident in her kitchen, and you can tell that she's used to throwing all of these different ingredients together and making magic happen, because that's literally what gumbo tastes like. I also loved here too that we have like this screened in door with this tree in the background. It definitely is that connection back to nature, and I do associate my own personal connection with nature to kind of be like what makes me feel that kind of magician energy of like I can do all and can take care of everything because I am grounded. We have the High Priestess. I love a cat for a High Priestess. I think that speaks for itself. I love that she is sitting on top of these above ground tombs. So essentially, this is how people are buried in New Orleans, because when the waters get high, if you're not buried in a situation like this, in an above ground site, the casket will float above the land. And so quite a few bodies have kind of gone missing through that process because the entire casket has just kind of like floated away with the floodwater because the water table is so high. So I just love it. Like this little kitty cat, she's like communing with the dead, and I find that to be very gorgeous. We have the Empress. We love this for a, like, Empress being that it is a crawfish, because in Louisiana, crawfish is what we eat for celebrations. And so there's a deep sense of maternal energy to that, because, you know, if somebody graduates or if you get a promotion, everyone always has a crawfish boil. So there's a sense of mothering and kind of maternal nature that comes to the table when you get together and everybody is sharing a crawfish feast, a crawfish dinner together. So I love this for the Empress because it definitely reminds me of those family times. We have the Emperor, and I think that this is like a really cool depiction of the Emperor because, like, of course the alligator is definitely the king of the swamp, but at the end of the day, you can actually get pretty close to gators. Nobody go close to a gator just because I've said that. But that being said, I have gotten within a few feet of an alligator. They tend to go for like easier prey. Like they're kind of a little bit lazy, gators are. So I think it's cool that like the Emperor can have like this bit of a tough exterior, but on the inside, he definitely knows his boundaries and he definitely will enforce his boundaries. But there's kind of a sense of like, maybe there's a little bit of like a soft underbelly to this Emperor that I find to be really compelling. We have the Hierophant. So it is no secret that Louisiana's politicians, as well as their religious leaders, have definitely not always been truthful and authentic. So you can actually tell from this individual that he is preaching a message to his congregation, but then another side of him is actually looking at the money that's behind him. So there is a bit of a sense here of like, I need to watch what these leaders are telling me. You know, what is their hidden motivation? And I think that that's a pretty fair point to bring up when we're talking about traditional leadership structures within this state. We have the Lovers. I love like the heat and the intensity of this. This is a beautiful Lovers card. You can kind of notice that like some juice is being spilled, maybe some like chocolate milk, I can't quite tell. And then we also have the hot sauce in the ground that's kind of being spilt. So it kind of brings to mind in the sense of like, what are you kind of knocking down in your urgency to get wrapped up in the embrace of another person? So I like this a lot. There's a shadowy element to it that's pretty evident. We have the Chariot. So there is a sense here that these people are kind of doing their own thing in the world. They are trying to make money by selling watermelons. So there's a sense of autonomy here that I really appreciate that's associated with the Chariot. But then of course, like the truck is how people get around here, especially if you are making money selling watermelons. You need a transport like this to be able to transport your produce from back and forth. And so it is very common to have like the watermelon stands on the side of the road. We have like this bamboo that's growing right here, which is kind of like a nice touch to go back home. We have Strength card, and this individual is trans, and I definitely appreciate that being reflected into this card. We can definitely tell that there is like some hatred that is going on behind it. I see a Confederate flag. I see a sign that says, "Not in my city, God hates," and it probably goes on from there. But this individual is listening to music and they're just kind of fully sitting in embodiment of themselves, which I think is a beautiful depiction of that Strength card, of kind of knowing yourself and knowing that that's what you need to know and what you need to believe in, and that knowledge is yours to carry forth with you. We have the Hermit. This is really compelling to me because the water is actually rising above his feet. So it kind of suggests to me that he's kind of casually playing, perhaps in the French Quarter, perhaps somewhere in New Orleans. We have the trumpet vine here too. But that being said, he knows through his old age, through his wisdom, that the floodwaters will once again lower. It's not meant to be high like this all the time. So there's this kind of deep understanding of kind of like the cyclical nature of things that is here that I think is very reminiscent of people that live in Louisiana. You know, hell will come, tragedy will come, but we will rebuild. And there's a kind of a wisdom in that, and also knowing how to rebuild and how to recover through that resilience. We have the Wheel. I'm a sucker for a spider as the wheel because tapping onto resilience and rebuilding, if a spider's web gets knocked down, they oftentimes just go right back and fix it. So I think that that works for the wheel and the reminders that no matter what life throws at us, we are able to rebuild if we are looking at the web, but also in terms of the spider. You know, the spider has a lot of control over their circumstance depending on where they are on their web. And so it's kind of like a manipulation of our fate in that kind of way too. We have justice, and in the background it says death to whores. We have slut. I can't read what this one says back here, but all of these women are kind of standing linked with their hands together. And I think it's a beautiful nod to this kind of sense of caution, because we have this orange in the background. These women are definitely standing here and they're kind of sitting in their own power. And the orange is definitely a cautionary tale for those people that have treated them wrongly. They need to go ahead and get on the right side of justice, or else karma will come for them. Consequences will come from them too. We have the Hanged Man. I love this card so much because possums do hang from their tails. So I think that this was a really clever interpretation of this. I think ultimately it is very important for us to learn from animals. And so I like that this card is included in that way. I have the death card here. Clearly this individual died because there are flowers on this bike. I wonder if it's because like it's a path, someone that is a pedestrian. I'm actually going to look at the guidebook right now because I would like to see what it says about this, so I can show you a sample entry. And I really love how this guidebook is written. So here is the guidebook entry for it, and I'm going to move that to the side so y'all can still see the card while looking at the entry. Wait, whoop. Okay, here we go. My camera is not focusing, but I'm trying here. Okay, so you can pause it if you would like to read it. But essentially what the guidebook is saying is that Death has revisited a street corner in the rain where he recently met a man at the end of his life. A screech of tire cars and it was over. The man is now gone, but his ghost bike remains. It is painted a ghastly white and adorned with flowers whose colors Death enjoys. He has visited many cyclists on these cramped city streets and knows where their skeletal rides remain. So I'm not personally from New Orleans, so I'm assuming that this must be a tradition in New Orleans, that if someone gets hit on a bike, they do paint it in white. That's not something we do from where I grew up in Louisiana, nor where I live. So I think that that's a really interesting thing. I'm gonna have to ask some like locals from there about that. What I really love about the guidebook is that for the reversal, it says no one can outrun death. So this is one of the first guidebooks that I've ever seen that actually carries on talking about the imagery within the reversals. I've never really seen that. So I'll show you some more examples in a little bit. We have harm reduction here, and I think that that's perfect because we usually have an angel in harm reduction. We usually have an angel in temperance, and actually they are considered to be non-binary. So I like this kind of touch that it's possible that this individual is non-binary too. But this individual is actually an angel who is helping someone to get through their overdose. And so they quite literally are an angel that is helping someone that is kind of at that cusp between like life and death. And I find that to be very compelling because in temperance we have 1 foot on land, 1 foot in water. And so it really is a kind of that liminal space that go between. And this individual is helping his friend go through that, or their friend go through that. We have the devil with the police car. I'm glad that Egan went here with the creation of this deck because I think that this is a really important message that needs to be shared. We have the levee breaking for the tower, which of course is a reference to Hurricane Katrina and the over 1,000 people that died from that. And so I think that this is a very compelling example of the floodwater kind of washing everything away. And you can actually see how far the water is rising, but it's an event that's completely outside of your control, just like the tower is. You have the star. I think this is really cool. I did read the guidebook entry for this one earlier, and essentially the deer is like linking horns with a deer that has been killed. And so it's kind of a remembrance of you've kind of gone through hell and you still carry like all of these bones and like your past self with you and kind of the remains of the ones you have lost with you. So it's kind of a somber card of the star. It's not quite so like light washed in terms of like hope and optimism, but it has that kind of underscore of like the past was really rough as well. We have the moon here. I think that she is absolutely gorgeous. She's a bit of a siren to me. The sun. We have judgment. I like this quite a bit. You can actually see kind of the crabs that are coming out of the water there. And you have the world. This definitely looks like what looking into a vernal pool or to the swamp looks like. Sometimes you can get the water where it's not super muddy like it was in the Fool, but rather it's kind of like a darker kind of green. And I really like the way that the shades of the colors were emphasized with that. Here are the extra cards. So these are the extra major. We have Mardi Gras. I think this stands for itself. So I'm not even going to look at what the guidebook has to say about this. I'm going to go with my own interpretations, which would be like revelry and fun and kind of not kind of like the line disappearing between what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. We have the heat, which is quite oppressive. I really kind of feel that oppression, but I love how like this woman actually is really enjoying it. I am a sun child too, so I definitely get it. It looks almost like they're either drinking lemonade or they're making sun tea, which is when you put a set of tea bags into water and let the sun cook it and brew it. So I find that to be interesting, but they have found a little bit of shade underneath this large oak tree. We have the Hurricane, which is going to be another tower card for me, for sure. And then the Termite Swarm, indeed, is another tower card for me, for sure. When we first moved into the house, I didn't realize that termites swarmed. And guys, I mean by literally the thousands. Like you could wake up one night and your entire house is covered with thousands of termites. And we didn't have an active infestation, but there was a house down the road from us that did. And termites swarm, and they don't live for that long, actually very little time, but essentially they are looking for a source of moisture in order to be able to establish a colony. So we don't have termites, but we did wake up one day because we had a crack in the window to literally thousands, and it was fucking terrifying. So this is probably more of a tower to me than even the Levy is, but I guess this deck has 3 towers and I'm fine with that. I'm not taking any of these extra cards out. Alrighty, so now we're in the Moths, which would be the swords. I am a huge fan of Lepidoptera. I love moths, I love butterflies, I love insects of any type, which is one of the reasons that I actually really wanted this fucking deck, because the swords are the moths. So this is an Io moth, very beautiful. I think it's really cool. The caterpillar for the Io moth is really not safe to touch. So with that being said, you can touch the moth itself. That's not a big deal if it's an adult, but it kind of has that underscore of like, sometimes the truth fucking hurts, right? So I think that that's an interesting thing to kind of watch your mouth, because if the truth isn't developed or your thought isn't developed, like it's still like a caterpillar, it can hurt other people. So wait until you've developed your thoughts to speak. We have the 2 of moths here, which would be the 2 of swords, and we have like a turtle with 2 different heads. Which way am I gonna go? Which way am I gonna go? I think it's super cute. The 3 of swords, definitely very potent in terms of what I've seen. I like that this is something different than just your traditional broken heart. I think everyone kind of knows what it's like to sit on that porch. If you've had the opportunity to have a porch like this and you're just trying to kind of catch your breath after something tragic has really happened. The porch spaces tend to be a place where you can be by yourself to kind of cope with whatever has happened, and I think that that comes through here. You have the 4 of swords. This is such a fun 4 of swords. I love that for them. Love it. Yes, you deserve that. Like, please rest. Take off your bra. That's great. So I find that to be beautiful. The 5 of swords, this is such an interesting play on the 5 of swords, just because it definitely shows a neighborhood being gentrified, and you can actually see these individuals that are kind of being forced out of their neighborhood with these luxury condos that are coming up. And I think that that is such a ironic title, Live, Play, and Love, when these people are literally having to relocate their entire lives due to this developer coming in and purchasing and gentrifying the neighborhood. So this is very smart. We have the Six of Swords, so I can actually see the moths right here. They're very hard to tell, but a mother is like canoeing with her child down the river. This is still very dark for the Six of Swords for me, so I find that to be interesting. Seven of Swords speaks for itself. Eight of Swords. I like that this is a Luna moth, because it naturally definitely plays on like that nighttime element, and I've always felt that Eight of Swords should be depicted as the nighttime because you're not able to kind of see what's beyond the shadows. The Nine of Swords. I also really, really, really love, and I'm just going to speak from a personal note, as someone who does love Lepidoptera, I love that I'm able to identify. Like, this is a garden tiger moth. We have a rosy maple moth right here. This is some sort of Pandora moth. It's probably like a Sphinx moth. And so I like that she actually put native fauna in here too. Like, thank you so much for that. So this is the Ten of Swords, one of my favorites of all time. This Ten of Swords is heavy hitting. Okay, so this is a saddleback caterpillar. These will put you in the hospital if you touch them. So this young girl is just so excited, so enthusiastic. This is the Page of Swords. She has so many different ideas, and so she is throwing caution to the wind and is about to get really hurt. So this is definitely a shadowy card. The Warrior Moth. So this is actually my favorite moth of all time. The Tiger Moth, which is why it features on my YouTube page. So I just like it. I think it's a good example of kind of being blinded and kind of running towards a fight without really knowing what you're getting yourself into. We have the Seer of Moths. This is the Io Moth again, which I think it's cool that there's a connection between the Ace of Swords and the Queen of Swords, because I do consider her to be the holder, kind of the receptacle of that knowledge. And then we have the King of Swords here, which is such an interesting depiction of this one. I'm gonna look it up in the guidebook. Okay, so here is the guidebook entry for the Sage of Moths. So the Sage of Moths stands nude before the world as rosy maple moths, a symbol of intellect flock to their unspoken grace. Upright, this card speaks to the mastery of our intellectual side. That's not to say that the Sage of Moths is the smartest person. No, indeed. Instead, the Sage of Moths has mastered a balance between the knowledge obtained through the analysis of the factual world and the wisdom of emotional insight and empathy. And then here is the reversal for it. Reverse, the Sage of Moths may turn his moths against you if you displease them. In this reverse, this card speaks of a person, especially an older male socialized person, using their great intellect for harm. That's very interesting. But once again, like, I like that they're referencing the card art in the reversal. Like, I don't think that I've ever seen anyone do that before. Now we're to the oaks, which would be the wands. And we love a live oak. I mean, they're so common here in Louisiana. I have two in my backyard. Here we go. We have a hunting dog. This one I really like the guidebook entry for, so I will show y'all. So here it is. If you would like to pause it and read it. The language of the deck is very like playful. So here's the reversal. The dog didn't plan on this adventure and may have to sniff his way back to his people. In this position, the Two of Oaks suggests that while you might be seeking a change in scenery, a lack of organization and planning may be keeping you from leaving or having a stable place to come home to. I think that is totally true. So I like it. I like how it was explained. I like that the card art is referenced in the upright and the reversals. So I think that that's a good example. We have the Three of Wands here. Look, we're kind of finding that warmth after that adventuring. This has kind of a shadowy element to it too. Like maybe perhaps we went too far from home. We have the Four of Wands, and y'all, we have love bugs. Love bugs flock in Louisiana by the absolute thousands. When I was growing up, there used to be a lot more of them. It is kind of sad to see our insect population decline. So I think that this is kind of funny, because it definitely shows kind of that commitment that I tend to look for in the Four of Wands. But there's also kind of a sense of like the flock is soon coming, because the love bugs will indeed come, and they definitely have been very fruitful in their mating. So I think it kind of traditionally plays on the idea of that arbor, and the idea that we have like kind of reached a place where we can reap a little bit of rewards for our efforts. The Five of Wands, this definitely looks like it is a bar fight. They are holding hurricanes, which is like this traditional drink that is in their hands, or is that a grenade? I don't know. I don't think it's a hurricane. I don't know. I've only drank in New Orleans like one time, so I could be corrected, but I do know that that's a pretty traditional drink. So it's a bar fight. I mean, that's perfect for Five of Wands. This card makes me fucking laugh so hard, because I shouldn't laugh about this, but people oftentimes have chicken fights. So there is kind of like a sense of victory between that. And like, I don't think chicken fights are humane. Like, please don't think that like I find that to be funny. But when I first saw this, I was like, oh my God, like, is it someone that's getting excited because it's chicken won? But then I saw right here, mom's best. So best in show is actually what it says. Okay, so this person has shown off their chicken. They're not doing some like backwoods like shit, like chicken fighting in their backyard. So I think I could probably read it both ways. We have Seven of Wands with the hog. They're literally rampant and so dangerous. Here we go. I love this card. So these are great egrets, and my husband and I, this is kind of like a symbol of our marriage. So anytime this pops up anywhere, I'm just so excited. We call each other all the time if we see an egret and say egrets, and it's just like a funny little thing that we do. But essentially it is flying, this flock of egrets is flying over the Mississippi River, and to me that is so symbolic, because I grew up on the east side of the Mississippi River and now I live on the west side. So there is kind of a sense of travel with that is very innately fitting in my own personal life. And I also see like Eight of Wands as like a message from above, like a divine message. So there is that divine symbolism of this particular bird with my life. So this is probably my favorite card in the deck. Oh God, 09, we have the nutria rat. Oh my God, this is so funny. So the nutria was actually released in Louisiana to control a different type of pest. I can't remember which one. And nutria rats are not native here, but they exist in the wild all the time. They're these ugly little creatures. So you can see that he has built his home. He maybe shouldn't be here, but he is building his home and he is defending it. Here we have the 10 of Oaks, which would be the 10 of Wands. So it really seems like this individual is kind of like carrying on this massive burden of trying to fight against climate disaster. You can see that they are planting all of these different live oaks in various different stages, recognizing the importance of what these trees do for our environment, but they're kind of carrying the weight of that all by themselves. It's a very potent message, and I definitely feel that. My husband and I do a lot of work to restore native environments where I live. So I definitely feel this on a very deep level. We have the Novice of Oaks. The Page of Wands, he's literally about to fall, but he's still sawing at that oak. That's not a good idea. So you can definitely tell that there's a level of caution here as well. He's got a little too excited and didn't think through his plan. The Warrior of Oaks, I've never really thought of like the Knight of Wands as someone that would be a little bit of a Casanova, but like I think that's what's coming through here. This guy is a little bit of a Casanova. He knows that he is attractive, and so he's just gonna sit there and wait for the ladies to come to him, or the individuals to come to him. I think it's interesting, kind of like showing that kind of like questing with the passion. We have the Seer of Oaks for the Queen of Wands. I think this also could have made a really good image for the Queen of Swords, because I feel that this woman is really kind of tapping into, I say woman, but this person, I'm gonna say this individual, they perhaps are non-binary, is like tapping into the knowledge of this tree and deeply like mourning the fact that this tree was cut. And so when I think of like the Queen of Wands, I think of someone that like is very self-confident, someone that is very deeply expressionate. So it's going to kind of be hard for me to kind of reconcile this one in my brain. So I'm going to look up this one too. Okay, it actually says the Seer of Oaks presses his palms. Okay, so the Seer of Oak presses his palms against the stump of a once great tree. The wood has kept his fire burning, but such warmth comes at the expense of the life of a great tree. He knows what he wants, but he also knows the cost of that desire. In the upright position, this card reflects that you may be moving into a period of constant momentum and determination in your life. You're well equipped to handle what life throws at you. And may want to give yourself a challenge. Reverse, the wood remains wet and is difficult to set afire. In this position, this card suggests you may be experiencing a spiritual setback. Okay, I could see that. I do work with the Queen of Wands a lot when I am trying to set boundaries with other people in my life. So it could be that I see that as my interpretation of this. Like my boundary is, you know, don't walk over me, because I do have the wisdom of all of these years before me standing behind me. And then we have the Sage of Oaks, which would be the King of Wands. I think it's definitely fitting that the sage has become one of the trees at this point. All right, Ace of Oysters. So this is so much fun. This is the Cups. So here we are in a more lighthearted suit. The Two of Oysters. I think that this is beautiful. The Three of Oysters. These people having a good time. Perhaps they're in City Park, which is a place in New Orleans with like great big live oak trees. I have a lot of good memories of picnicking there. We have the Four of Cups. I think that this is a very evocative Four of Cups. It's nice to see that she has her cat next to her, because I have a white cat that looks just like that. And I saw something online probably a few months ago, and it was like, you know, beside every girl that's rotting in bed is her cat. And so I like the comfort of that. We have the Five of Cups. So this definitely looks like an oil spill with all of the dead fish. I was alive during the BP oil spill, and it still fills me with rage. And so, you know, there's a sense of grief and loss to this, but also a deep sense of rage to me as well. We have the Six of Cups. So they are like just playing kind of like in the swamp a little bit. That's some nasty water. It's very interesting. It almost looks like there's a face here, which is what I was looking at. So there's that element of play too, and imagination, kind of like looking at a cloud and seeing what's there. The Seven of Cups. The Eight of Cups. That's a powerful card, especially with the shadow on the ground like that. Nine of Cups. I am a sucker for like someone eating in a Nine of Cups. I love that. They have like all their little accoutrements too. Like we have like the lemon that they put on their little oysters. I love this Ten of Cups. This is a beautiful, beautiful depiction. Just like family and love. Novice to Oysters. This is crazy for Page of Cups. I think this is crazy. The Novices like all have a very shadowy element to them. So he has tried to shuck the oyster, and he has instead shucked his hand. So that's pretty gruesome to look at. This is a card that oftentimes comes up to me when I'm doing like deeply wounded inner child work. So I think that that's interesting. The Warrior of Oysters. He looks like he's riding a catfish. Seer of Oysters. She's so beautiful. So, so beautiful. Look how she's like one with the oyster. There's a sense of like merging that comes through for me with the Queen of Cups personally, especially because it's water, and water tends to merge. So I like that she's part of this oyster. And then the Sage of Oysters. I am a King of Cups. That's the signifier that I claim predominantly. So, okay, I guess I'll be a little raccoon. That's kind of cute. Ace of Cast Iron. So cast irons are a massive part of Southern culture. and they oftentimes are passed from generation to generation. So I think that this was a wise choice for the Pentacles to show that wisdom that has been passed down forth. You have the Two of Pentacles. She is trying her best working at this diner. Oh, the Three of Pentacles, the Holy Trinity. That's what we call it down here, between the bell pepper, the celery, and the onion. Every good Cajun and Creole recipe starts with this. So this is our seasoning mix, and you can buy it from the store. It's called Guidry's Seasoning Mix if you want to just kind of be a little bit lazy and buy it like pre-mixed. But I always have these ingredients in my house at all times. It doesn't matter what I'm cooking. If it's Cajun and Creole, I am calling on the Holy Trinity. So there is a sense of like you need all of them in order to make that expert food happen. This is one of my favorite cards of the deck. I actually got a tattoo from a tattoo artist in Baton Rouge because I saw that she had tattooed the Holy Trinity on someone, and it was a tarot card that said the Empress. And so I think this would have made a really awesome Empress too. But that being said, love this card. We have the Four of Pentacles, and you can actually see the oil that's dripping from this pipeline. So there's that underlying message of like kind of the horror of experiencing that greed. So this has a shadowy element to it as well. The Five of Pentacles, if this isn't New Orleans, I don't know what is. Broke, hungry, but not unhappy. Yes, very, very true. Very true to just Louisiana in general. And that's not to kind of gloss over the issues that exist, but it is to pridefully and rightfully claim that the individuals that live here definitely, for the most part, try to see the brighter side of things at all times. I would say people here tend to be pretty optimistic in the face of challenges, not to underscore, or rather not underscore, but undermine that true pain and struggle. We have the Six of Pentacles, that I love this. This looks like my granny. My granny used to feed all the stray cats, and she would come outside in her slippers and her moo-moo, and all the kitty cats would be waiting for her. So love it. We have here the Seven of Pentacles. It's a lot of damn tomatoes. Like a lot of damn tomatoes. And it is, what's interesting to me is the Seven of Pentacles to me is all about timing and just kind of knowing like to act when the timing is right. And tomatoes don't last very long in Louisiana. You can get them to grow usually until like late August, but it usually gets too hot for them. So I like that element of timing in it. We have the Eight of Pentacles working on costume design. There's nothing more detail oriented, I think, than that. The Nine of Pentacles. I struggle with this card like personally, and so it's nice to see it depicted here with this individual. He's going fishing. For sure, he's going fishing. He has his house that's on the water and his dog that's next to him. So I like seeing the dog because I know that the woman in the traditional Nine of Pentacles has a bird, but the dog really kind of is a sense of, you know, you've made it in life, but you also have companions with you that you can enjoy it with. Here we go. We have the crawfish boil. So crawfish boils are pretty expensive. So I think it's perfect that this is depicted in the Ten of Pentacles because quite frankly, they do cost money. I love that there's like a little dip here. Where I grew up, we didn't eat like a little like dipping sauce with our crawfish. And when I went to college, that's the first time that I ever did that. So I just think it's a nice touch. Definitely shows that the person who made this deck is born and raised here. But everybody's excited for that crawfish boil. They've waited all day for it. We have the Novice of Cast Irons. Of course, this Page of Pentacles did not know you're not supposed to soak the cast irons. This is not how you clean them at all. And so this person has ruined their cast iron pot. They have to re-season it because it is all rusty as hell. So they're probably feeling like their ancestors are like yelling at them from their graves at that point. I've definitely done that before. I did it a couple times and then I learned very quickly not to do that. The Warrior of Cast Irons with this Pentacles. Once again, we're kind of going back to the roots with like all of these like very basic ingredients in cooking. So I think the mushroom's a little bit random. I wouldn't call that Cajun or Creole cooking, but we do cook with it out down here. But I like the concept of going back to the roots and like what sustains and nourishes our body. We have the Seer of Cast Irons, the Queen of Pentacles. She's very fucking witchy. These quartz are so interesting to me. I don't even think I'm going to try to put my typical associations on them, I think I'm just gonna roll with him. She's a fucking badass bitch. And then the Sage of Cast Irons, of course he has a food truck. What else would he have? I mean, like, Louisiana is food. Food is Louisiana. It is what it is. It's a beautiful. Alrighty, guys. So before I hopped off and turned my camera back around, I wanted to share with y'all two other decks, two that are Louisiana based, just in case you're like me and you're desperately lusting after Delta Enduring. So the first one I'm going to share very briefly is Louisiana Cajun Creole Tarot by Cajun Conjurer. I actually am real life friends with the Cajun Conjurer, so I'm happy to share his deck not only because of our personal association, but because I really, really, really love this deck. So this is another deck created by someone who is born and raised in Louisiana, and I think that that point of view is so incredibly special. So the suits are named after various instruments. We have the hurricane here for the death card, very potent. You can definitely tell that card is on people's minds. The accordions. I have shared this deck pretty extensively in how I work with my Spirits of Place video, so I'll leave a link in the description box below to that one. I'll also leave an Etsy listing to this deck so you can find it if you would like to purchase it. And I have the original copy of this painting on my wall, so very beautiful. And then the last one I want to share with you is going to be my Louisiana Tarot Cats. This is my only cat tarot. I have edged this deck in purple. The cardstock is absolutely stunning on this one. And this one features some cats that are just going about their day in New Orleans. So we have like a little bit of kind of trippy imagery, but you can tell here that there's some live oaks that are very reminiscent of the live oaks in New Orleans. So with that being said, this is another good alternative. I have shared this deck on that previously mentioned video of how I work with like Spirits of Place. So I'll leave a link for that one too, so that you can see this one as well in further detail. Look at that, live oaks again. Alrighty guys, so I think that I just wanted to come on here and say that I appreciate all of you giving me the opportunity to walk through Delta Enduring today, and I really kind of learned from this to be patient, because with eBay I kind of set up a save search like several years ago, and I've seen this deck go for kind of outrageous prices. I'm lucky that this copy came up that is authentic, that is real, just didn't have a box, because I don't need a box anyway. I keep all my stuff in bags. But I think it really kind of goes to underscore the importance of just like taking your time and waiting, and knowing that if you really want the deck, it'll come back around to you when it's meant to. So thank y'all so much for being here. I always love existing within this space, and I will see you again next time.